go. Good Friday afternoon to you. How the hell is everybody today? I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. I can't complain. I mean, I could, but who'd listen, right? Hey, it's good to see you guys. What's happening with you on your Friday? I'm hoping everybody is doing just hunky-dory. Hunky and or dory. It's got some odds and ends going on. Tonight, I will be on with Yang Yan Zhao. I will be over on his YouTube channel, live streaming. There's, whoops. Delete. Posted the wrong thing. Let's try that again. There we go. Over on Yang Yan Zhao's channel. Adam, IR, hello to you both. So you guys can check that out tonight. We're going to talk about building a campaign, what it takes to build a campaign and build a world. And all kinds of other fun stuff. Let me see if I can sum it up real quick. The actual link. Bear with me a moment here. Here we go. So if you want to check that out tonight, Yang's a great guy. I love his channel. Love doing streams with him. Well, I've done a stream with him, and I really enjoyed it. So having me on your YouTube channel is like a prime example of what happens when I start talking and people don't tell me to shut up. Just ask Imperial Ramblings. I went on and on and on and on. So here's a bit of interesting gaming news for you. An interesting bit of gaming news for you. I found out today, or rather, I found out last night. I shouldn't say today. I found out last night that the USTPO for the wizard logo, Grimorley the Wizard. You guys know what that is, right? I mean, it's my user icon. I've used it like for forever and a day. The Grimorley the Wizard logo has actually expired. It is now public domain. You can take it and put it on whatever you want. The Lizard Man logo from AD&D sadly is still tied up in trademark, but the Wizard logo has been allowed to lapse. You can stick that on your product if you want. I intend to. For Halloween this year, I'm going to release a short one-shot adventure free to you guys. I'm still working on the castle to get that out there, but I'm going to release a free one-shot adventure, and I'll spoil it a little bit for you. It's based on a 70s horror movie, as is only appropriate for Halloween. And I may slap the Wizard logo on it. That may be like the first thing I publish that has the Wizard logo on it. Now, I was the first OSR guy and to use the TSR style trade dress. Hello, Damien. Good to see you, Damien. But I don't think on any of my PDFs I ever actually used the old Wizard logo. But now I can. It's no longer product identity, which I think is hilarious. And I'll be honest with you, at this point, I'm all about doing anything that trips Wizards of the Coast up. I really am. See the previous show a week ago. But yeah, I thought that was pretty darn interesting. Hello to whoever is over on Facebook watching. Good to see you. Or not see you, as the case may be. So next week, next Tuesday, myself, Volcano God, Verdamelt, I think I got that right, and Ricky Maru will all, on Tuesday, we will start the Example of Play Dungeons and Dragons game. That's right. We will be, for the entirety of the stream, live streaming a gaming event for you guys to watch. You'll be able to comment, ask questions, that sort of thing. The sessions, I don't know how many sessions there'll be. I mean, we could potentially, we could have a TPK in the first session. And then the next session, guys roll up characters, or that could be it. But that's going to be the order on Tuesday, is we're going to be playing Dungeons & Dragons. First edition, advanced Dungeons & Dragons. So anyone who's out there who has followed the entire stream of how to play AD&D, you're going to see those practices that we talked about put into play. And hopefully you guys are going to like it. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it. At least, I think you will. Let me see. Let's see. But to move on. So how about you guys? What's going on in y'all's world? How is everyone doing? It's going to be interesting talking campaign building tonight. I have leaned pretty hard, pretty heavy on the idea of using World of Greyhawk. For your campaign worlds. But Greyhawk is a big, huge, howling space. It is a big, gigantic open space. And as I've gone through the Dungeon Master's Guide, going from hex to hex, as my characters travel, checking on things, checking on encounters, did they encounter a thing in its lair? The lair is in the hex, and so on. I haven't begun to fill 1/10,000th of the map with fixed encounters. Now, random encounters, they're just that. They're random encounters that happen all the time. I mean, a pack of 6 or 7 werewolves, not in lair. They're just out there on the plains. They see the party coming. They, wait in ambush. Or jackal wares, or ogres, or hill giants, or owl bears, anything that's not in its lair, that's just part and parcel of encounters across the map. One interesting thing that I found myself wrestling with is if you're doing a section of encounters on a map, actually, you know what? Let's look in the Dungeon Master's Guide real quick. I'm actually going to show this out, and you guys can ask me questions about this as you like. see if I can find this real quick, like. Here we go. All right. So this is the default that I use. Let's open this up here. Turn on the Acrobat. There we go. Whoops, not me. Acrobat. All right. So I'm going to shrink me down, and I'm going to blow the Dungeon Master's Guide up a little bit so you guys can see this. All right, so if you look here, we're on page 47 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. And this is where the fun starts. This is where, like, I wish the outdoor encounters in this section were all in the same place. But it's on page 27. It's a column that starts with land adventures. And we've talked about this some. You talk about population density and then base chance of encounter. So relatively dense, there's only a 1 in 20 chance of an encounter. Now, it's not mentioned here, but down in the encounter section, it says 5 out of 20 of those encounters are going to be with a patrol. So you've got better than even odds that you'll encounter those. Something that is also not mentioned here is that 1 in 20 of those encounters, when you have a random encounter out of doors, will be with some kind of settlement. Be it a castle, village, hamlet, town, city, major city, and so on. And then we look at the type of terrain. Plain, scrub, forest, desert, hills, mountain, and marsh. And marsh can cover everything from, coastal wetland all the way up to like a full, deep, cypress-filled swamp with pitfalls and alligators and, you've never seen dry land or mountains level of swamp. And they all have different frequencies. Forest and marsh, you check every time of day. Now, Kyle and I, when Kyle and I talked about every space, this is what I use as my default counter for spaces. But it's a bit Einsteinian because space and time are equivalent here. If you spend all day in one, like I say, okay, you enter the hex that the Great Marsh occupies, and you spend morning, evening, just morning to pre-dawn there, then I'll check for 3 possible encounters. Now, the interesting thing comes up. So we've established that there's a 1 in 20 chance that it's going to be some kind of structure or habitation or what have you during an encounter. So what if you're on a plane and midnight it's an encounter and it's a large city? Does that mean that your party was camped next to a large city the whole time and they didn't know it? Well, then it's up to you as a DM to kind of try and figure out the hows and the whys and the wherefores. But the question of the number of spaces in a hex and the number of time you check is solved by this table. And you might say, okay, well, this is generic, but what about the World of Greyhawk encounters? World of Greyhawk encounters are interesting let me see here. My awful PDF. And I'm not sure exactly where this is. I apologize for the scoliosis as we zip down through this. So let's zip up. Let's go to page, I think, 100. All right. So here we are. These are random encounter tables in the world of Greyhawk. And do they supersede what is in the Dungeon Master's Guide? Well, yes and no. The standard 25% chance for encounter with a patrol applies within a state. The way that this is used, scroll back up for a little bit. Encounter tables are provided here and for all the major areas of the world of Greyhawk. Where users are referred to standard encounter tables, consult those on pages 179 through 194 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. If monsters are encountered, consult the relevant entry of the Monster Manual or Fiend Folio. So basically, you check for an encounter. If you have an encounter and you're heavily using the world of Greyhawk, there is, generally speaking, a 25% chance of an encounter being something off of the world of Greyhawk tables. The rest of the time, you use the tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So I'm not expecting you to see this, but we're in the second book of the Greyhawk set, and these are on these are starting on page 8, or even before then, possibly, but you'll roll standard encounters most of the time, but then you'll come back, and if you have anything over 25% on percentile dice, then you use your standard encounter tables. Or sometimes they indicate use standard encounter tables at other times. Or on other tables. Like, for example, Bodies of Water. Artensime, Nesser, Celantan, Velardiva, and Vang Rivers. Dice roll. 1 to 20. Men, Rene. 21 to double nuts. Use standard encounter tables. At River, all other rivers, use standard encounter tables. So there are adjustments, and the two complement each other. One does not supersede the other, but you can use both sets of encounter tables. Both the Dungeon Master's Guide and the World of Greyhawk sets. But again, randomly encountering a castle. Hey, Randy, happy Friday to you too. Randy Buckness over on Facebook. Good to see you, my friend. Sorry to slurp in your ears if you are listening on headphones. So you've got a lot of options for checking what you might bump into, and it's a good way to really, really flavor your World of Greyhawk beyond just what you might encounter with the Dungeon Master's Guide. Not that the Dungeon Master's Guide itself is bland. So we pop back over there. Remember, there's a chance you're going to that your party at midnight is going to suddenly realize that there's a haunted castle nearby. And the encounter distances can kind of come into play too. Now, Encounter distances out of doors, I think, are up to 240 yards. Your party is going to know if they're within 240 yards of a major city. Again, you as the DM should roll well beforehand. Don't let the party get snuck up on by a major city. Roll out all of these well beforehand. And with this, and with the World of Greyhawk set, you can fill your World of Greyhawk set with maps and towns, and with your World of Greyhawk set map with towns and villages and castles and whatnot. In fact, I'll have a little bit of world building to do before Tuesday's game, and that's going to be enjoyable. But I have other homework to do also. So how about you guys? Any questions? Anything you guys wanted to ask me today? Anything that I have never revealed? Any comments, criticisms, and negative, nasty remarks? Just let me know. And I will do my best to answer your questions. I'll turn Acrobat off for now and expand me out. There we go. I think I've mentioned to you guys before that I do a sports cast on Sundays. I have to get up very early on Sundays just because of the schedules of myself and my co-host. But we have a pretty fun college football live stream that we do. We get up, we talk about the University of Alabama football, Roll Damn Tide. So that's going to be fun. We got a big rivalry game coming up this weekend against the University of Tennessee, the Butt Chuggers. Oh, I hope I don't lose any viewers. Hope none of y'all are rabid Tennessee fans. If you are, well, you have my sympathies. I get a pretty international viewing audience, I think. I get a lot of people from hither and yon. It's kind of fun. So there's a little bit of non-pleasantness. Plus, I don't think there's a great Venn diagram overlap of people who really enjoy football and people who really enjoy D&D anymore these days. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but it's just my perception that folks don't. But it is what it is. I'll say this. Alabama had a guy playing for them a few years ago, Hale Hentges, which is, if that's not the most fantasy gaming sounding name in the world, but yes, Hale Hentges, and he was he is a fantasy RPG gaming nerd kind of guy. I checked out his Twitter and I was like, he posted up on Twitter once. It was like the 5th anniversary or 6th anniversary of the release of Skyrim. And he was like, you know, X years ago, this day, such a fantastic game. And I'm like, that, I didn't expect that. That's, you know, here you'd expect this guy to be like focused and drilled down on winning football games. And he very much was. I mean, Alabama's been exceptionally successful over the years with their current coach, Nick Saban. But yeah, it just kind of caught me off guard. I was like, oh man, that's awesome. So yeah, that was a fun crossover. And he was a good player too. Not a great one, not like, you know, his name will be written in the stars or anything, but he was a good player. I think he's in the NFL now. Let me see. See what he's up to. former American football tight end. He played for the Colts, the Redskins, the Vikings, and yeah, that was it. Did not play long there. Yeah, he retired back in March, on March 30th. Well, I hope he did well, and I hope he does. I hope he does good for himself. He was a run blocker. Man, what IR? Man, what? Can't just say that. Can't just say man and leave it hanging there. So one thing, the holidays are accelerating. Things are getting pretty busy. And I took some time off. I took a good chunk of December into January off. I say a good chunk. I feel like it was like 2 weeks, something like that. But I just stopped doing it. Stopped doing the live streams. And then I came back strong. I came back into it. I'm not going to do that this year. I'm going to take some time off in December. I may, like, the week before Christmas and Christmas week, there may be fewer streams. And then in the new year, it'll go back to normal. Okay. There is this very famous interview given to a University of Alabama student back in 2009, where he decries Tennessee in the most homerish fan statements, and it's become legend amongst Alabama fans. And it starts off, the interviewer says, okay, just, go ahead and say what you think about Tennessee. And starts off, man, I hate Tennessee. And just launches into this polemic about how much he dislikes Tennessee. So that's what IR was going on about. But anyway, to get back to the holidays. As the holiday comes, I may have a holiday schedule of videos, but I will definitely, I'll definitely still have a few videos in there. And I need to do something. There's something I got to do for the holidays, for you guys, for the viewers, to fulfill something that I had intended to do last year and never got off my ass. I got to dig through my chats and find out what to do to rectify it. My Facebook chats. It was before I started doing videos on YouTube. I'll own up to my mistake right now. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to pretend like it didn't happen or that I didn't screw up like this. So last summer, not this past summer, but a year ago, this past summer, I ran S4 or S2 White Plume Mountain. And of course, as you guys have seen, I've shown it on camera before. I'm not going to go dig it out again, but I made the entire menagerie section. I made it out of styrofoam and plexiglass, and then filled. I got miniatures for all of the critters in. I printed up giant scorpions, and then I bought Reaper sea lions and who is it? Manticores. I bought manticores from Nolzur's Miniatures, and I painted them all up. I just slot painted them, but I didn't have the giant crayfish. Was it the giant? Is it the giant crayfish or... Anyway, I bought a box. Well, they came in an envelope, but from Amazon.com. I bought these plastic lobsters, these plastic red lobsters to use as the giant crayfish. And they're silly, but I used them and folks got a kick out of them and it was good fun. But I ended up with this box of giant plastic crayfish. I say giant, they're like that long. It's like, you know. And so I asked trivia questions for like a month. And at the end of each session, or a week or something like that. And I said, if you get the trivia question right, I'll mail you one of these. I didn't get around to it, and I feel awful about it. So that's one thing I got to do, is I got to go through my chats, and those will be going out finally to the people who won them. So that's something I got to do. But I don't know what, if anything, I will do this year like that. As you can see, my tendency to get things mailed out on time is not great. I need a fulfillment department for the channel. But perhaps I can 3D print up something and have a contest and, you know, like a wizard's tower or something like that, print it and paint it up and have some kind of contest and send it out to the winner. We'll see. We'll see. I actually, once upon a time, when I had a text-only website, I had a couple of sponsored contests for miniatures and Dwarven Forge terrain that were strangely nobody hopped on. I was kind of shocked. I ended up what happened with the Dwarven Forge was I had a contest and I said, okay, you know, create a map. Basically, create like a 5-room encounter dungeon area, and I'll judge them, and you can send it. And here's what you'll win. And it was a large set of Dwarven Forge, and then a small set of Dwarven Forge. And I contacted the Dwarven Forge people, and I said, hey, would you consider doing this? And they said, absolutely. Just tell us who wins it, and we'll send it to them. And so I did that, and nobody entered. It was the strangest damn thing. Dwarven Forge, and this was back when they were the resin stuff, you know, pre-painted. And so the contest came and went. And someone I knew at the time messaged me and said, did anyone win the contest? And I said, no. The contest came and went. I mean, it wasn't like months later or anything like that. I just said, I tell you what, you can draw something on a sheet of paper and write down like a monster name in it, and I'll consider that an entry, and you'll be the winner by default. And so they did that. They just threw together a map on graph paper and wrote, like, you know, orcs, trolls, ogres over here, pit trap, you know, kobolds and gnolls. And they got like almost $300 worth of Dwarven Forge stuff sent to them. Weirdest thing I have ever seen. I actually got more contest entries, which is to say I got 3 for pre-painted metal miniatures from EM4. Is EM4 or E4M? Anyway, there's a company that makes gaming supplies, and at the time they made fantasy gaming miniatures that were metal and pre-painted. They're actually pretty good. I have some of their product over on my shelf that I use pretty frequently. And again, I had just a few people ask it. But I mean, the strangest thing in the world. I would certainly do it again someday. If I thought that folks over at Dwarven Forge would sponsor the contest, or anyone would sponsor the contest, I would gladly run another contest if I thought anybody would participate. But With that said, I would have them, that is, the companies, I would have them handle the clearinghouse of it, because I just suck at getting stuff out the door. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's a personal failing. But I would gladly do that. So I might think of a nice contest to do in the new year, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see like who I could get to sponsor it. Like, no offense, and I say this as a guy who has only himself personally ever published PDFs, like never a physical item. I always felt that, hey, you can go and here's a coupon to get a PDF from Drive-Thru RPG. I mean, it's a product you're charging for. I get it. But I'm just like, if you're going to win a contest that's not just money, give something physical. Give something tangible. I mean, even if it's just like a die with your company logo stamped on it. In addition to, you know, when you win a contest, don't you like to get something tangible, something you can hold? Maybe that's just me. IR says a dice tower. Okay, maybe a dice tower. I'll print up a dice tower. Let me ask you something. Is the dice tower, is that a new-ish thing? Because I feel like I feel kind of like I missed something with the rise of dice towers, no pun intended. Like, I had never, to me, a dice tower was when you were bored at the table, and everybody does this. I've seen non-gamers, people who never played tabletop role-playing games before and told me so, when they're not in the action, sit there and start stacking up their dice on the table. I thought that's what a dice tower was. And like veteran gamers, we all will sit there, you know, you got 9 people at a convention table. It's not Bordak the fighter's turn. So you start, you know, you go D20 on the bottom, or maybe D6 for a foundation. And then, you know, you got a D12 that's nice and chunky. Then a D8 for that inter-platform stability. And then your D20. And then you got your D10s together, you know, a D10 stacked reversed on another D10. And then you put the D4 on the top. And everything's all stacked up nice and neat. Dice towers go back to Dragon 39. See, I wasn't into Dragon back then. So I'll take your word on it, Jack. I'll definitely take your word on it. But yeah, stacking up your dice, that was a dice tower to me. Adam says, I wasn't much of a dice tower guy till they made the one based on the idol from the cover of the Player's Handbook. I bought that, and it's glorious. It is, actually. I've seen that, and that's pretty nifty. But yeah, I mean, I can roll dice on the table just fine. I mean, I've seen neat dice towers before. I just don't feel like I really need them, quote unquote. One year for free RPG Day, which I guess came and went, I didn't really do anything for it. I felt bad about it, not doing events, but I got a freebie that I think was damaged in shipping. It was from Paizo, but I got it from in just a whole bunch of swag that was given out for free RPG Day at Gods and Monsters, and there was a fold up dice tower is basically just a laser cut ABS plastic thing that was like that tall. Just nothing to write home about. I think it was supposed to have been clear. I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is pretty cool. A dice tower. And then I realized that it was just like the two sides, like the middle pieces and the back were completely gone. Were just like not there. So whatever. That was as close as I've ever come to using. Let me see here. There's a website called Anarchive that has all the Dragon magazines in it. So here we are. Let's look at this. I'll open this up and we can look at it together. This is back when Dragon magazine was still good. So Dragon magazine is good till around issue 130, 140. And then it's not. And in my own humble opinion, the best stuff about Dragon was the ads in a lot of cases. When Gary wasn't writing articles and like actual TSR luminaries weren't writing articles, the best parts were the ads, just in my not at all humble opinion. So let's see. Here's Dragon Magazine 39. As the Anti-Paladin was in this issue. That lovely cover art. Ral Partha ad. Iron Crown Enterprises pulling out the big guns for an ad, doing an ad in 4-color instead of just black and white. See, this is a good issue. So who do we have writing in this? Gene Wells, Len Lakofka, Larry DiTillo, Tom Moldvay. Let's see. Did you find it yet? Not 39. I saw the ad a couple weeks ago. It wasn't called a tower. It was something else and a small ad too. Yeah, the smaller ads kind of were the more interesting ones because it's like, you know, hey, here's a world beater fantasy game. Come and try this out. And there's like never an ad again from those people. And you Google it and it just directs you back to that PDF. Those are the things I wonder about. Like, what happened? Sorry again for the scrolling. Never cared for Phineas Fingers that much. I know I'm a horrible person. Jasmine cartoon by Darlene, or comic rather. A page that is entirely upside down. The missile mission for top secret scenario. Oh, that's the end of it, yeah. The Ground Squid. By Larry DiTillo. Oh my, nice lurid art there. Free the hostages, rescue at Rigel, automated simulations. That was Epic's software. They became Epic's software. Out on a limb. And then there's the anti-paladin. So I guess we're not going to know. Hang on a second. I'll answer your question there, Damien. Oops. There we go. Okay. So Damien asks, I know 3rd edition is a touchy subject, but do I think the Sorcerer was a good addition to the franchise? I don't think splitting magic users was a good idea. I think the illusionist and the magic user were fine the way they were. I think the cleric and the druid were fine the way they were. The cleric got a lot of nifty options in the world of Greyhawk, which I guess later they expanded out into something called specialty priest. I don't really know about. Ground Squid appears inspired by a Buck Rogers episode, or maybe the Sarlacc, although this may predate Jedi. Because Jedi came out in, what, 83? Anyway, so the Sorcerer doesn't feel right to me just for general D&D. Like, if it had been introduced, like, the Sorcerer is a class for Forgotten Realms, or they're a class for Dragonlance, or for Ravenloft, particularly Ravenloft, I'd have been more okay with it. But as it is, I don't really... It predates Jedi. Okay. But as it is, I don't really feel like it's a... I don't feel like it's a good addition. I think it's creating too much granularity. Magic user magic and illusory magic are different enough that you can make the case for illusionists and magic users to be separate magic using classes. Same with druidic spells and clerical spells. But to my eye, now I did play a lot of 3rd edition, just because all of the people that I gamed with, none of them wanted to play 1st edition. They all wanted to play D20. They all wanted to play the new shiny. So it was... But I was of the opinion, looking at it, that the Sorcerer was just the magic user, wizard, but, like, you know, more extreme. I don't think it made, like, 2 good classes. I think it made 2 weak classes. And then by trying to make them stronger, things just got jankier, in my opinion. And it created more fodder for the problem of caster supremacy. Like, oh my, 3E fans would complain about caster supremacy. It's like, oh, well, you know, why even be a fighter? Magic users get all this, and, you know, there has to be balance. Well, if they hadn't screwed it with it, it wouldn't be a problem. Magic users, clerics, druids, and illusionists in AD&D have all kinds of baked in control rods, if you will, that make it so that they don't just dominate over fighters. Fighters can swing their sword all day long and twice on Sunday. even the most powerful magic user that you've probably ever run in a game has got 1 7th level spell they can cast. You know, I mean, by the time you've got magic user capable of casting 9th level spells, you're playing at another level anyway. Damien says, I felt like creating a spontaneous caster class was an attempt to make something to the Sionis' Scion without making a new set of powers. Yeah, I just, you know, that's very interesting, because that dovetails nicely back to a discussion that Kyle and I have had, something that I've expressed to you guys before, and that is that you don't change rules in a system without understanding. I understood what you meant, Damien. You don't change the rules to a system without understanding completely why all the rules worked the way they did previously. See, if the people who allegedly saved TSR, that is Wizards of the Coast, if they had all been employees, the people that designed 3rd edition had all been employees of TSR from the get-go, or had truly played and understood Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, even 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, they would have known why all the stuff that they did, particularly with spellcasting classes in 3rd edition, were bad. But they were just fans of D&D. And let's be honest, their primary focus of game creation was with Magic the Gathering. How much D&D were they playing? They were probably like a lot of, I mean, because Ryan Dancy and company were all in the, 30, 31 when they seized control of TSR. And then when they sat down to start writing their own rules, I think they just said, okay, we're just going to just a clean broadcloth and start from there. And all they had to go on for knowledge of previous editions, despite having access to the books and the notes and everything that TSR had, an entire office building full of, all they went with were their adolescent experiences when they took the, when they would hit something in the AD&D rules that they didn't understand, they'd ignore it. And they wouldn't use it. It's like the helmet rule. Why should I have to buy a helmet? Helmets are silly. My suit of armor comes with a helmet, doesn't it? Well, if a character doesn't buy a helmet with his suit of plate mail, and suddenly, 50% of the time orcs are trying to cave in that melon sitting on top of your shoulders, suddenly you understand the importance of helmets. But if your DM's not doing that, the cost of helmets, it just doesn't make any sense. And people talking about, Monty Hall games, characters at 7th level are billionaires many times over. Are you charging them monthly upkeep? Are you charging them taxes? Are you making sure they're paying for leveling? Or are you just ignoring all that because it doesn't make sense? And I think that's a lot of what Wizards of the Coast did wrong. Was they didn't pay any attention to why things worked the way they did in AD&D. And their lack of comprehension made them think that the way that AD&D worked was a problem that had to be fixed. And the fixing of the problem that would have been non-existent if they had paid attention to the rules, the old rules, when creating the new rules, led to the ridiculous power curve where you've got the Summoner Angel and the BMX Bandit situation. The fighter is the BMX Bandit, and then his partner is an angel who can summon the heavenly host to fight the bad guys. Well, what does BMX Bandit do? Nothing. Damien says, finally, on this line of thought, the Paizo Sorcerer Bloodlines could have been more useful as character traits for PCs with I'm sorry, Damien. That I know sweet FA about Pathfinder other than it was built on top of 3.5, which was built on top of 3.0. And I know that 3.0 has its own issues as far as power curve. It's not so much a power curve with 3.0 as it is a power you move on at a straight horizontal line and then do a 90-degree turn north. Power curve implies that it goes like that very rapidly. This is like a power hockey stick. Let me see if I can unpack what you're saying, Damien, and consider it a little bit before we wrap up today. On this line of thought, the Paizo Sorcerer Bloodlines, don't know what that is, could have been more useful as character traits for PCs with martials. Not sure what you mean there. Benefiting from the extra feats and spellcasters for the spells. I'm not smart enough to work my head around that one, Damien. I'm sorry, bud. I'm not giving you grief about it, and I'm not making fun. That is literally just another language. Like, if I didn't understand hero system and you came in and started talking to me about half advantage and, 2 times armor piercing and, a 2 pip HKA, I wouldn't understand that either. But I do know what those things mean, but I don't. Okay. It bugs me on the Dice Tower. I was reading 39, 65, 72, and 97 recently, and now can't find it in any of them. It wasn't called a tower, and it was a flat pack assembly. Okay. Well, Anyway. So maybe I'll make a dice tower. I have a nice resin tower. I'm looking at it. It's on a shelf over there, but it's not a dice tower. It's a piece of terrain. It's Hearst Arts that a friend of mine assembled for me. I got the Hearst Arts kit from a friend. I was like, yay, this is awesome. I never did anything with it. I was like, hey, it just sat around gathering dust. And then a friend took it from me and said, well, I'll assemble it for you. So it's now assembled and painted and sitting on a shelf over there. And every once in a rare while, I'll grab it and use it. So anyway, that about wraps it up for me today. I have kind of babbled and sort of wavered back and forth. I'll be back Monday. We'll jump into some I don't know. We'll jump into some more Greyhawk lore or maybe castle building, but we'll see come Monday. We'll have a good show. And then Tuesday we will have a nice talk about playing AD&D. We will play some AD&D right here at the table. And I'm not sure yet, but I might put some Dwarven Forge and miniatures out. I'm feeling like that's going to be a thing. So be here Tuesday for a live stream AD&D game. Yeah, it's already been an hour. Oh, so Damien says, essentially Pathfinder sorcerers could pick a monster bloodline at character creation, which granted bonus to feat, spells, and some powers in order to differentiate themselves from wizard. Again, I feel like that should be a very campaign-specific thing. I wouldn't want that just as a general rule. I would not want that just as a general rule. I'm looking forward to it too, IR. I'm looking forward to Tuesday also. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that ejection handle. You guys have an absolutely fantastic weekend. I got a lot to do. I got a busy weekend in front of me. So y'all try and have a good one. I love you all. Thank you for stopping by today. I do appreciate it, listening to my ramblings. Thanks as always to our friends over at Bards of Greyhawk. Rich, Jeremy, we love you guys. Your music is awesome. That's bardsofgreyhawk.hearenow.com. Check out their stuff. They are the world's first AD&D tribute band, and they're awesome. I pre-recorded my live stream for Tuesday so I can make sure I see the playthrough live. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. So, yeah. Hey, you know who gets a shout out today? Shout out to Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Go forward and beat Tennessee. Peace, guys.